Good evening, District 2. It's 6:02, so if you don't mind, I'm coming to your seats and we'll call the meeting to order, or whatever the informal neighborhood part of that is. My name is Ruth Eldridge Thomas. I'm the District 2 Chair, and I'm happy to be here this evening and even happier that you are here. I'd like to recognize the fact that we have several city officials with us this evening, and we thank you for coming. We know it's a long week. And a longer evening. And so we really appreciate your coming. Just as a point of order, this is natively a hybrid meeting, which means that we always have at least as many people on Zoom as we do in the room. Because of the way this room is mic'd, if you're going to speak, you must speak into a microphone. Even if you have a loud voice, which I'll take you to the mat if anyone has a louder voice than I do. But we have to speak in the mics because the minutes are taken by recording, and also so the people on the recording can hear. So when it comes to Q&A sessions or to people that are speaking, we'll ask the people that are speaking on the program to come here, and then we'll have traveling mics. So if you Q&As, if you'll just raise your hand, we'll get those mics to you, hopefully in an orderly fashion. And then just get really close to it like this, and you'll be great. And so will we. We do have a full docket today, so we'll carry on. Just one more point of order. Neighborhood meetings, as always, are informal meetings that are based on the respectful, open, and informative dialogue. We expect that this meeting will be no different than that. I think this probably ranks number 2 or 3 of really big stuff that we've had this year. So we trust that that will continue to be the case. And another point of order is, as we ask questions, the way this evening will work, because we have so many speakers, we'll ask you to keep questions directed toward the speakers who have just spoken at their point on the program. And then any other things for the city or public officials will go into the public comment section. So we'll ask you to respect that. First on the meeting, we'll go straight in, is the update on Buckley Draw. We have 2 speakers here tonight. Gordon Haight, who is the Director of Public Works. Yes. Okay. And Caden Seeley, who is a soil scientist from BYU, here to speak to us. We're very, very glad to have both of them. Gordon, many of you will know through his longtime service in the for the city and through the Public Works Department. Caden Seeley is a soil scientist. He and his advisors asked me to disclose that he has been a student of both Brian Hopkins and Joshua Lamont. Dr. Lamont was scheduled to come tonight and had a last-minute emergency that kept him out. So we thank him for coming and for providing the information that he can, and we thank Caden for filling in for him at this point. Gordon has asked, as many of you know, Gordon gave a presentation about Buckley Draw on Monday. He is loath to repeat that for people that have already heard it. So if you have not heard his presentation that was given on Monday, could you just raise your hand? Oh, Gordon, we've got like half the room. Okay. So what we'll do, our original plan was for 10 minutes. For Gordon, if you don't mind kind of giving us a summary. That meeting is also available on the city's YouTube channel if you'd like to go and get his unabridged version. It's not quite like Lord of the Rings. I think it's better than that. Gordon, we'll turn the time over to you for 10 minutes, and then Caden, and then we'll have time for questions after. Great. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for letting me be here tonight. So as Gordon mentioned, this presentation was done a couple of nights ago, and I'm going to condense it a little bit and get into the point of this a lot quicker. Just a really quick overview. This is the Buckley Draw watershed. It's over 500 acres in size. It's a very steep canyon located on the east bench. It caught fire in 2002, and there was a debris flow in 2003, and a debris flow channel was constructed to protect the homes that are just downstream of it. You're aware of the fire and debris flow that we had this year that impacted this church. And also there is a residential development that's being constructed in this area outlined in green. And this is where the debris flow came out of the channel, flowed through that site, and then impacted the church. I'm going to go through some of these a little bit fast, or you may see me skip a couple of them, but the conditions that led up to a debris flow this year. So we had a very hot, dry summer, and we had a fire, obviously, with severe burn conditions. 450 acres of the over 500 acres burned. So it was about 90% of that burned. And we had a very intense rainstorm. So we got 0.7 to 0.8 inches of rain in 30 minutes. This flooding would not have occurred if it weren't for the burn conditions. We get larger storms than that, and it's able to be soaked into the ground. But because of the burn conditions, we got this debris flow coming out of the canyon. This just shows the size of it in an isometric view. And it's roughly 45 LaBelle Edwards stadiums in size, that area that got burnt, just to give you kind of some context of how big that is. So a couple of the questions we wanted to jump into: why did the developer remove the fences prior to constructing the debris channel? And the fences are these lines shown in red. I'll show you a picture of them in just a moment. And there's also a concrete jersey barrier located on the downstream end. So for a couple of years, or nearly 2 years, we've worked with the developer to come up with a site that will meet city requirements. And one of those requirements is to extend the debris flow channel past these proposed homes. We approved a mass grading plan. The intent was that the site would be graded for the homes and the channel at the same time. And this would provide a superior drainage element to protect these homes than what is currently there. The developer and their contractor were able to start on the subdivision portion of the grading. So I wanted to also stress the permission was for grading only, not for building homes yet. The homes cannot be built until the channel is completely constructed. They were able to start on the grading for the subdivision, but not the channel, as they're working through obtaining permitting from several utility companies. And so they removed those as part of that work to grade the site for the homes and the road that will eventually be constructed there. Next question is, wouldn't these fences have protected the church? And the answer is no. They were not meant for the type of flows that we experienced this year. They would have simply been overwhelmed by it. It's not to say they wouldn't provide any help at all, but the flow that came through pushed several concrete barriers over. These were temporary measures installed by the federal government and meant to last a few years. They were not removed, so they were there in place and just simply left there. This gives you just a quick perspective of the difference in magnitude of flows that we had this year compared to 2003. And we anticipate that we had about 35 times the volume come down this year compared to what happened in 2003. And this picture shows where the church eventually was built in 2006. So we modeled where flows would go if no work had been done on the site. If we hadn't done any grading, we left the debris flow fences there. This yellow blob is where the debris flow went in 2003. The red shows the outline of what we had this year. And the blue shows where our model simulation shows the water going to. And you can see that it did move a little bit to the north. Flows would have been able to flow into the church and also south of it and impact other homes, businesses, and a second church located down by State Street. Didn't much of the mud that hit the church come from the development site? And the answer is no. It's not to say that no mud came from the development site, but there was no noticeable change in topography from that site. And you can see from this aerial image, and there's quite a bit of drone imagery that we have, that the mud came out of the canyon, flowed through the site, and then impacted the church. And this is just another photo looking up that shows the mud coming through and on a very compacted surface. What actions did the city and developer take after the fire began? So we had about 10 days from the time the fire began until we had the debris flow. And the city was busy trying to mitigate and plan for this potential for flooding. Meeting with the contractor, extending a temporary berm 300 feet, meeting again to construct additional protection measures, and installing Jersey barriers on Nevada Avenue. There's an ongoing maintenance effort to construct basins and berms to help capture those flows and protect any downstream infrastructure. So even with all of these elements installed, and they would have been a lot more, well, they were a lot more effective than the 2003 fences would have been. They were still overwhelmed by the magnitude of the flows that came down. But had we left the site as it was with the debris flow fences there that were there previously, it would have been a much more catastrophic event. Why do we allow development on the hillside? So Provo City allows landowners to develop their land as long as they meet certain requirements. And the requirement for this site again is to construct that debris flow channel. And it will essentially provide that same protection that homes downstream of it currently receive. It will just be extended up to those properties to the north. What are the city's temporary and permanent plans to protect residents in the area from flooding? We have debris basins and berms that we continue to reconstruct and work on and clean out to keep this area able to capture flows that come down. And that channel is currently being built. So the permanent debris flow channel is being constructed now, and we anticipate will be done in about a month. I just wanted to show here the permanent plan that shows the debris flow channel going on the upstream side of the homes. That you can see the lots here. It will go down and cross Slate Canyon Drive and enter a final basin, which will also function as a park. And that's what's shown here in green. It typically takes 3 to 5 years for that burn scar to recover. And so we may continue to see flows during that time. I'm going to skip that video. But in conclusion, as a result of the changes that were made on that site, the flood damage was actually reduced. Thank you.
Yeah, so I'm Caden Seeley. Thanks for letting me be here today. Dr. Lamont had something come up like was mentioned, and so I'm filling in for him and Dr. Hopkins. I'm representing them. They've been tremendous examples as well as teachers in my career as a soil scientist and my learning. So I'd like to get started real quick. I don't know if we can pull up the slides that I have. And as a little bit of a background why those are coming up, I grew up in Burley, Idaho, so I was around agriculture and soil a lot. And then when I started at BYU, I started working for Dr. Hopkins and his soil biophysical chemistry laboratory, and have done that for the past 5 years. So I've been around soil a little bit. I don't know everything, but I know a little bit, and I'm going to share with you what I do know and what I've been able to observe from this example or case study that I've now been able to witness in real life, besides just homework problems. So to get started, the Buckley Draw mudslides, reasons and future risk. So the mudslide, like was mentioned, would not have occurred if it were not for the fire. Most, not all of the mud in the colonial church building came from the mountain. And you can see that by the ash and the debris that was within the mud as lots, maybe many of you were there removing that mud. It was full of ash. If you want to move on to the next. So the existing berm behind the homes on Oregon Avenue did do its job. It protected those homes in that neighborhood. The mud, water, and debris came down the draw, hit the rocks at the beginning of the berm, turned north, and ran down that channel. However, if you want to go to the next slide, the mud, water, and debris hit the end of that berm that existed at the time and turned west. The slope on the developed area or under development was very steep and straight and aimed directly at the church. And without any of the concrete barriers or fences, as well as lack of vegetation, that's an important key point there. In the development area, there was nothing to stop it. It gained very, very fast force, tremendous force, and then hit the row of cement barriers that was there on the east side of that road, and then blew them out in the first major mud wave. And the slide was able to just go straight through there. And these are examples of the result of what happened with that. I'm sure many of you were there, helped out cleaning this up, but you can see that there is, the car was swept away. I don't know how tall that is in the picture there with the boards holding the doors closed, but it was a tremendous amount of mud and debris that came down from the mountain and ultimately came down through that developed area there. And so the renovation process is underway right now, and they're hoping that another one will not occur where they can just continue the renovation process without any more mudslides that might hurt it. So if you want to continue on. So this is where the soil science comes into play a little bit. This is the universal soil loss equation. And so there's 5 key factors, and this is recognized by soil scientists all throughout the world. And an important point about this is all 5 of these, if you look at this scenario, all 5 of these points are playing against us in this scenario, in this case. So if you think there's rainfall, erosivity, and lots of rainfall. It talked about, I think he mentioned it was 0.8 inches in 30 minutes of time. Lots of rainfall that's coming on that land in that time. And then soil erodibility, if you think of a soil profile, if you dig a hole 3 feet deep, you can look at the different horizons is what we call them. So you have an organic layer, call it an A horizon, a B horizon, a C horizon. There's different names for everything. And each one of those horizons has the ability to be swept away. They have different consistencies. The organic matter on top can flow away first, and then the next one could then flow away, and then the next one, and then the next one. It's not that the top one goes and then it's done. So soil is a huge portion there. The slope, length, and steepness. As you can see, if we step out of this building, you can look up at the mountain. It's very steep, huge slope, very, very steep. And so that helps with that. And also the developed area is also very steep and doesn't help in this scenario. Also the cover and management. If you think of the plant material, the roots, when the fire happened, it destroyed a lot of the vegetation and the parts of the soil that were holding it together with a lot of the root matter there. So destroying the plants and the vegetation really hurts. And then the support conservation practice. So not having fences at all times that help in some way, better than no way, really also helps with the support and conservation practice of our doing, taking care of the land as people and as humans. So all 5 of these points in this equation that's recognized all over the world are working against us in this case. So these factors are used to estimate, like it says here, the average annual soil loss from sheet and rill erosion. So just keep that in mind. If you want to go to the next, let's see. Several soil scientists that I've spoke to all agree on these points, that all of the factors were present to cause a mudslide and exist to this day. There's still a huge chance of more, and rainstorms can be heavy this time of year. Like we know, it might be raining right now actually. And, you know, it's been a record October already and we're halfway through. So we don't even know what's to come and what's to come in the spring as well. So as we talked about the steep slope, long length, it's a huge area as well, 450 acres that was burned, 450 acres of vegetation that was lost due to the fire, and also the loose soil that was there due to excavation at the development. So, and then also the hydrophobic water repellent soil that was due to that fire. There's chemical processes that happen when fire happens as well. So let's see if there's any other. And then, as mentioned, the support and conservation practices that were not present, with no berm extension that was promised in the city planning meeting before, no barriers present, no terraces, none of those things present at that time. So if we want to move on to the next slide. So as predicted by a soil scientist, I remember coming down, I was visiting my family in Idaho the weekend that the fire happened, and I drove past the point of the mountain, and my wife and I said, "Oh my gosh, Provo's on fire." And we looked down, and I knew that was right next to Dr. Hopkins' house, and I'm very close with him. So I waited till the next day to ask him about it, and I was actually on campus with him, and we were riding around in his truck, moving some soil around, obviously, as soil scientists. And I asked him about it, and he said, the worst part is what's going to happen next if there's rain. And I knew right then that he could predict it. He knew what was going to happen. And so right then and there, he told me this is going to be a great case study for my classes, and I need to get on this right now. So, and it has turned out to be a great case study. I've learned a lot and been able to apply a lot of the things that I've learned as a soil scientist in the past month or two. So we want to move on. And then also second mudslide and several floods after. Unfortunately, there hasn't been as much rain as that first one, and the mud wasn't deposited in the channel behind the berm. But as of last week, it's still not removed. There's lots of debris and mud that is still in that berm that did its job the first time. So as we have seen that there has been some work being done to remove some of that mud, but if you fill up a berm, if you fill up a bathtub and then you pour more water in it, the bathtub's going to overflow. And that's the exact same thing that's happening with this berm right now. If you add any more mud that flows down from the 450 acres that's burned, that still has more of those soil horizons that can come off, that berm will overflow, and it's a risk. So a huge risk to the homes. We want to move on again. So yes, as I'm ahead of myself, I guess, there is more risk. There's plenty of soil still on the mountain. It's estimated that the amount of mud that came down is less than 1% that is still there. It's deep. It's not just a little bit of soil and then rocks. There's a lot of soil up there. And the berm extension is still not built and is not being built properly. There needs to be more soil compaction and pieces. There's a lot more pieces to just throwing soil together and having it be called a perfect berm extension. It needs to be compacted, and also the existing berm needs to be taken, or all the mud in the existing berm needs to be taken out to make it as fully operational and compatible with another mudslide that it needs to be. So moving on. So will the berm extension solve the problem? If done correctly, it will protect the upper neighborhood and the church. But the businesses and homes below are still at a potential risk. So I guess one of the another extension or another thing to solve the problem will be to guide the mud with a berm that goes down to the park that it's supposed to go to, and go through and not potentially risk any of the homes or businesses that are below the mountain and Oregon Avenue and that neighborhood there. So with that, I would like to answer any questions I can. I'm not exactly 100% familiar with all of your whereabouts and whatnot in the neighborhood, but I'm happy to do what I can.
So at this time we have 20 minutes for questions. I anticipate there are a lot of similar questions and a lot of people who don't really like microphones. So if that's one of you, just raise your hand and we'll bring you 3x5 cards and those questions can be read out for you. Just as a reminder, yeah, please. Just as a reminder, these questions are to be directed at Cade, not at him, and to Gordon and his colleague. We also do have some other city officials here, but we're asking the questions to be kept to the subject at this time. Oh, and you have a 2-minute limit, and I'll just like scream in your ear or something if you go over.
Good. First, it sounded like between the two presentations that one of them indicated that the first presentation indicated that without the development, it would have been a worse situation. Watching yours, I didn't get that impression. In the first presentation, it said that it seemed to be saying that a lot is being done, that there shouldn't be much future problems, which seems different than your presentation. I'm just curious where the city is on this, or whoever wants to answer that question, but it's like, how could we reconcile those two discrepancies, at least that I see? Maybe others see more discrepancies.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I've learned talking to Dr. Hopkins and Dr. Lamont about this is a way that you could kind of blend the two is to finish the berm and finish that extension to make it safe for the development to happen, to not put the businesses and not put the church at risk. I don't know if does that answer your question back there?
Tells me what needs to be done.
Yes.
But doesn't tell me why there's a discrepancy between these two presentations as to one seems to say, oh, it really no one's at fault and
yeah,
everything's
well,
being okay.
I guess,
and the other one says, well, actually it might have been better if it hadn't been the development and we're not doing enough.
yeah, I think one of the important parts there is as I wasn't present at the city council meeting, but it was promised that would have been done before the development had been started. And so with that fact in mind, the development made it worse.
So actually that promise was never made. So if you go through the record, there's no discussion about the.
This mic isn't working.
So we'll have the experts.
But thank you,
whoever they
yeah.
want. So,
I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, is this on now? Closer. No, sorry about that. I'll try to be quick so I don't chew up your time. So there was no requirement in the development agreement on the timing between when the debris channel was supposed to be built and the subdivision. So they were supposed to be built before houses were constructed, but not necessarily before the grading started. So what we did, and I don't know if they've done any of this, we've done modeling what the berms would have done, or excuse me, the silt fencing and other kinds of what was left there naturally. And it would have been more devastating. It would have hit the church much harder. The debris would have potentially caused structural damage to the church. If you compare an earthen berm versus silt fencing, the earthen berm is a game changer as well as a earthen debris basin. Not only would the church have been damaged, but the 7 homes below would have all suffered severe physical damage if the grading would have been left just as it was in 2002. The second church would have also received mud damage similar to the first church, not the structural damage, and the businesses would have been hit much harder had the grading not taken place. So pushing it all to the north, you can see a much more detailed diagram on the presentation. It's all on the website. As far as the grading site, that whole site was surveyed before the fire took place. It was also been surveyed about 20 days after all the flooding. It's at the same grade. They have not brought any material in to replace anything that had been taken off site. You've all lived there. You've seen the excavation. Everything's been hauled off. They've not brought in new material and compacted in place because there was nothing lost off the site. That there was no detectable from the surveying, and that's been shown by Focus Engineering, who's been doing that. So it's at the same site and they're ready to move forward without any additional material. So I don't know if that answers your question. What we've seen, time. Sorry.
We've just seen the photo of the channel being pretty full. What is the status of the channel, the existing channel, not the extension? And what is the schedule to get that emptied or back to the state that it was in before the first slide?
It's about 75% empty, and it should be done about middle of next week. It should be completely empty.
The question that I have is, they're going to finish up this berm and stuff. When are they going to dig the basin in the Bicentennial Park? Because if that's not in place and there's another flood, then it might not hit the church, but it's going to hit the homes and businesses downstream for sure.
So one of the things we've noticed, we've had 5 events since the fire. The first event was the debris flow. All the rest events have just been water. It's not had debris. We've had a soil geologist go up there. We have the drone footage from the fire service. There's really not much more debris that's going to come out of that mountain. We're also seeing that we could have major water events, so that we're not really concerned about it filling up the channel again. So what this channel will do is double the capacity that was in the previous channel, and then the basin will double what that is to protect that area. And so again, this is a fairly small canyon, 500 acres. And so it's going to be a challenge to get enough debris for another fire to come in that would overwhelm a doubling of the system. But yes, we'll be working on that over the next 2 to 3 years. They're going to be coming to you in a public hearing to design the park, what features they want in it. And once that goes through that process, then we'll be finishing up the rest of the basin.
I don't know if okay. I just like to comment and just say, in the presentation that I mentioned, soil it's not just gone and then nothing else can come down. There is more soil that could come down in another slide. And also just to touch on the other thing about no soils being brought back in to the development. I don't know if you did the test on which soil is currently there, but some of the soil that could have been taken out with the mudslide could have been replaced with soil from up top. So the development could have added to it a little. I don't know if you've done any tests on that, but
we did any material that was brought in from the slide would have had to be pulled out because it's not substantially strong enough to handle the project. So they haven't had to do that. The developer, you can go up and take a look. It's just basically the same site that was there before. Again, we have the drone footage from the Forest Service. They verified it. We have surveys that we can show that as well.
what soil did you use the retention ponds for?
So that was leftover debris that was scraped off the site, and we use that to make the debris basins, and that will be hauled off.
My name is Bob Craighead. I live in the Alpine Brook area, Alpine Way. My question is directed directly to Cade and Cade only. All due respect, Mr. Haight, we heard your presentation on Monday, and many of us from the neighborhood have come here to hear the soil engineers from BYU. Cade, I'm assuming you and Dr. Lamont and Dr. Hopkins have probably discussed this extensively. The area where all the mud came through, that construction site. In your opinion that you guys have formed, should development been allowed in there to begin with?
Without an existing berm that would have taken the mudslide out of there, no. But with the ability to, I guess, create a berm and a exit strategy for that. I mean, it's all about safety protocols. If you think about building a building, you have to have these things put in place before you build a building. You can't just say, let's build 4 walls, no doors, no exits, and then have a building. You have to have the exit strategy beforehand. With that, I would say go ahead and build the development if there is those safety precautions put in place. But I would rather be safe beforehand than to just start on something and say, oh, we'll take care of the safety later.
Hi, so the graphic with the different flows, the blue representing what would have happened without any development. when we had our meeting on Monday, there was a fair amount of discussion about Newtonian versus non-Newtonian flows. My wife asked a question about the blue, and that was representing a non-Newtonian flow, which would have been like water. So that means that the water itself would have been more pervasive, and that's why it looks a whole lot worse. We know that the mud flow was a non-Newtonian flow, but you used a Newtonian flow in your model. I'm concerned about that. And I think that warrants an independent investigation to determine some of these things, because a lot of effort was made to say that the flow was mitigated because of the work done in the development. And your evidence is the blue flow showing how bad it is. But a non-Newtonian flow would have been much different than the Newtonian flow that is modeled in that graphic. So I would like an independent study to make a determination on that.
So we did the modeling. What? Pardon? So Newtonian means that it functions different than just the way the water flow. The water is just going to follow gravity, but also can be diverted by curves. With the non-Newtonian, it will literally go up and over things differently than water. So in reality, by using the water, it's a much more conservative look at what would happen if it was put in there. So just to make it clear, our staff, Jacob and our group did the modeling, and then we had a consultant review that work and go through and criticize it and critique it, look at the assumptions. Again, if there's anybody, we'd certainly look at any analyses that BYU has done. Love to have anything that's quantitative that we can put in the report. So anything that anybody has, would be more than happy to add that to the documents we're preparing. So we'd welcome that. We're very comfortable getting that.
Yeah, I'd just like to add as well that this is something in our soil science, our first soil science lab that we talk about is just soil particles. You have like clay, silt, sand. And I don't know exactly the makeup of the land up there or what the soil is, but water, if you're talking about a Newtonian flow versus non-Newtonian, a way that could be modeled as a Newtonian helping it is if the soil's disturbed, if it's under development and it's, you're bringing up the soil, the water is going to be able to hit those particles and stick to it as well, which could help with the flow. But if it's a non-Newtonian flow, like with all the debris, that development's going to do worse it's going to be worse for it than helping it, I guess. It's a worse outcome because the water in a Newtonian flow, the water would stick to it and be able to, be part of that so that's why that graph or the picture would make sense. Is that in a water, in how that was used, not necessarily. No, I would say that's a little bit misleading. Yeah.
So is it Haig?
Haight.
Haight. Okay. I missed the first part of the meeting, so I understand you're a soil scientist. I'm not exactly sure who you are. And I apologize for that. But I guess the information that I was hearing from you a couple questions ago, the soil scientist, he had the look on his face of a scientist who doesn't look like he agrees with everything that's being said at the moment. And so I'm very curious of the things that have been said by Mr. Haight so far, and you just commented on something seeming a little misleading. Are there parts of what have been said that you don't agree with as a scientist?
I guess I'd have to think through a little bit I took a little bit of notes, but a little bit about the soil being brought back in from different areas, or not bringing, oh my goodness, I cannot speak. I've touched on a little bit of the things that I didn't agree with. Nothing comes up on the top of my head besides some of the misleading things with that, and then soil coming down, replacing some that might have left already in the flow, and the fact that more soil can come down from the mountain. It's not just a one and done debris scenario.
I'll go ahead and give two questions from cards. I'll give them both as they're kind of short. At what point would reseeding the mountain have helped prevent this flow or other flows? And also understanding that this is quite an expensive a fix, over $500,000 so far, and probably more to come. There's concern that where that money is coming from, and is this going to affect the home prices as these were meant to be and were passed through as affordable houses?
So the Forest Service is not going to reseed this site. They have done a number of studies over the last few decades. They determined that the burn scar comes back just as fast with the seeding, so they're not going to do this. This is something that's done on Forest Service property, so the city is not allowed to go up and participate. Hopefully that answered that question. The second question is, the city isn't spending any money on the $500,000 that debris channel. That's all being paid for by the developer. The money we've spent has been in our budget, so there's not going to be a significant cost. The developer's done a lot of the work and bringing up their equipment to help build the debris basins and the debris berms. So we've had our crews up there cleaning them up, and they've been, overtime and so forth, but it's within our maintenance budget that we're doing this work. So I don't anticipate, there's not going to be any request from our department for any additional funds for this.
Hi, I am texting with Dr. Hopkins, and he wanted to point out two things. First of all, he wanted to point out that there actually is a city meeting, and he has the timestamp where you guys said this would be done first. So we will be including that. He has a social media post that he's going to be putting out that kind of goes in depth, as does Dr. Lamont. And it will be an online thing that we can send to the neighborhood that has more resources that Caden talked about, but it also will have more information, because obviously they've been studying this for a while and they have quite a bit of information on it. The other thing that we wanted to point out is that even if for some reason the city keeps saying that you are not promised to finish the berm ahead of time, we, at least I, as a citizen of the city of Provo, feel like we expect to be protected when things like this are done. And sometimes we don't know what those protections entail, but when the entire mountain comes sliding down, I feel like, knowing that the mountain is on fire every couple years. I've lived there for 18 years now. I mean, the mountain being on fire is unfortunate, but it happens quite a bit. I would think that the city would say, hey, this might be a problem. It's happened before, and do some kind of mitigation before they started building. And as Caden had pointed out, when you take away top layers of soil, and you take away vegetation, it does matter. So I think that one of the things that maybe he would like to speak to again is how the conclusion that the city made on Monday, that we are better off than we would have been, is not necessarily true. What do you say to that, Caden?
Yeah, I would say, and you can obviously, Dr. Hopkins and Dr. Lamont both wanted me to say that they will be posting things on Facebook and other areas that you can go look at after this meeting tonight. But they will tell you, and I will tell you, that it's not better off than previously stated, like you said. So.
Well, looking at the time, we have a final two questions. Again, there was a repeated question about the vegetation and the fact that vegetation was removed by the developers. To what extent did that help or hinder the mud flows that happened? And also, what is the timeline for completion of the berm and the retention pond below Slate Canyon?
So again, we'd love to see any model that BYU or Dr. Hopkins has that would demonstrate what they're saying. Again, we have not seen that in the modeling. So if there's any simulation that verifies what they're saying, let's get it and let's put it in the report. So we're anxious to get any information anybody else has. That'd be fantastic. The actual debris channels under construction should be done in the next 25, 30 days or so. So it's well underway.
Yeah, just to touch on the vegetation, that's just part of that universal soil loss equation was the cover and management and then support and conservation. So that's a key point in that soil loss equation that most soil scientists, most all soil scientists recognize throughout the world. So.
Again, we thank you both for coming, and thank especially those who have done extra work and double duty on this. I think I can speak for the city and hoping that there will be continued dialogue and continued participation at this level. Okay. We have 2 more agenda items left. If you're tempted to go now, just wait to see what's coming next. 2 planning items. We'll start now with a presentation on the proposed zone change from an R110 CH, which is one family residential critical hillside, to add 8 new homes. I understand this is an infill project, and Matthew Stewart is here to give a summary of this. Did the city want to say anything about the zone before we allow Matthew?
Right. So just to kind of let you know where we are in the development process with this project, it has passed all department reviews. And right now it's waiting to be scheduled for a planning commission and city council meeting. It goes to the planning commission for a recommendation, and then it will go to the planning commission for a final decision on the zone change. So, but those meetings haven't been scheduled yet. Oh, is it still in CRC? Sorry, I was wrong. It is still in the review process. So I thought it was done with reviews, but it's still in the review process, and then it'll go to planning commission and city council. And now our planning supervisor, Aaron Ardmore, will explain what this critical hillside zone means. So Aaron.
All right. So critical hillside overlay zone. Critical hillside overlay zone is a zone that is on the east bench, typically throughout the entirety of the city. Development Services created the overlay zone a number of years ago and proactively applied it to most areas of the east bench, most undeveloped areas of the east bench, to have stricter standards for areas that could be developed in the future. I say could be because they still need to go through rezone. They still need to go through the legislative and administrative review processes and approvals. The critical hillside overlay is available online for you to read through, but it has stricter design requirements that attempt to do 2 things. The 2 primary goals of the overlay zone are to maintain the aesthetic of the hillside, and the second one is to maintain the safety for the residents around and for the future residents of those developed areas. So that's the intent of the critical hillside overlay. I don't know if there's any additional questions that anybody had in mind, but I may just turn the rest of the time over to the applicant.
Well, thank you, Aaron. So I'm Matt Stewart, and I appreciate your time tonight. So I'll start off with this aerial view of Alpine Brook. So as many of you know, the park in Alpine Brook is to the north. If you look at the top of the picture, kind of that green spot. Yeah, there you go. That's where it is. Next slide, please. So the parcel in question, you can see it's outlined in a triangular shape. You've got the park there below it. It's 2.83 acres in size. Next slide, please. So as was mentioned, it's currently zoned R110. The top 1/3 of the triangle. At some point, it was changed to public facilities. We're not exactly sure how that happened, but it doesn't really matter as we're seeking a rezone to LDR, which is low density residential. What that would do is it would match what Alpine Brook currently is. And so what that would allow us to do is to build 2 fourplexes. And the hope would be that it would become a part of the Alpine Brook HOA. In addition with that, the Alpine Brook Park would actually increase in size. Next slide, please. So this is a visual of the actual design. So you can see the stub road coming in from Alpine Loop. It's a hammerhead style road turnaround. And then units 1 through 4, that's an uphill style fourplex plan. And as was mentioned, the park is just on the right-hand side. You can't see it, but it would extend over to the back of units 1 through 4. And then units 5 through 8 are just a downhill style. Next slide, please. So this is just an idea of the elevations. So these elevations they're not the exact same plan that is in Alpine Brook. The elevations are a little bit different. The square footage, I believe, are a little bit larger. I couldn't tell you the exact, but the difference in square footage. But anyway, obviously, efforts would be made to make sure that stucco, stone, and shingles match what Alpine Brook looks like. Next slide, please. And then this is just elevations of the uphill style building. Again, just the front, back, and sides. That's the extent of my presentation. Are there any questions? Please.
I have 2 questions. One is, what will you do to encourage home ownership versus LLCs buying these up, which is most of that area is owned by LLCs? And secondly, there did not seem to be a lot of visitor parking, and we know that that area has a tremendous problem with parking, not sufficient parking in the area, and so it pushes down in this Lake Canyon neighborhood. So how will you address that, as well as, are you going to encourage home ownership, or just whoever buys it, buys it?
So great questions. So first off, I've looked at the plan. It looks like there would be places where we could get some parking. Obviously, there's parking. Each of the homes have their driveways, which would accommodate for parking. It is difficult. We've sold homes before and actually asked, saying, are you an investor? It gets tricky. I'm not sure if we cross any legal boundaries by asking that. We've tried that route before and haven't been successful at
Well, zoning in Provo only allows 3 unrelated people per
Correct.
home, but those townhomes up in that area tend to be out of compliance, which is an additional issue. It looked like 2-car garage, maybe
Correct.
2 in the driveway, but people we've found typically don't like to play Tetris, so they end up parking on the road, like I said. So, I mean, would you be open to adjusting to putting some additional visitor parking in that plan?
Correct. Yeah. What I was saying is, as I looked at it, there could be, it's hard to see, but if I look off to unit number 1, there you could potentially get some parking slots there. And then again, I don't know where the hammerhead turnaround is. If you look at unit number 5, you might be able to get in between that turnaround and unit number 5, some parking in there. We've done that before. Absolutely.
With the rezoning, it would allow 8 units. Without the rezoning, I understand some units could be built, but they would be single.
So
units?
yeah, R110, again, we actually did have somebody approach us years ago that wanted to do single family. We actually feel like it would just flow better if it wasn't. And so we turned down that offer. But how many single family homes could you get on that piece of property? I'm not entirely sure, but I believe that the low density LER zoning, given the property, obviously you can see the topography, there's that steep hillside. So how many units could you get in a single family? I'm not entirely sure.
3 or 4?
I mean, maybe.
Okay, just curious. Thank you.
Yeah, I haven't done the math, so.
Nope. Okay, hi. My name is Jason Suker. I'm here representing the Alpine Brook Owners Association. On behalf of the board of directors, we just want to express our support for this project. We're the ones that will be most directly impacted by this. This area of our community has remained undeveloped for 20 years. We've actually been asking the Stewarts to develop this for several years so that it could complete our community. This was zoned for other things that were not necessarily attractive or desirable to the residential neighborhood of our community. And so just speaking on behalf of the association, we support this development. We feel like it'll be an attractive contribution to our neighborhood and our community. And we hope that the community will rally behind it. We'd like to see it happen.
Thank you.
Okay, I am just wondering, I'm terrible with maps, but I'm wondering where the Bonneville Trail comes in over this thing. And is this higher than anything else that is currently there on the mountain?
So Alpine Brook is currently there.
Right, but I'm talking about the other areas. Is it higher than anything else that's there further south?
Further, that's something I can't really answer. I'm not exactly sure if I'm understanding your question. I mean,
yeah, I'm just wondering if we're graduating up more
no,
than
so
what we've seen in this development.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I
understand.
realize we are there in Alpine Brook.
Yeah, so I mean, yeah.
Compared to the other houses that and buildings that were built by the
so,
Stewarts.
I mean, actually on Alpine Loop, you have some uphill units that I think would technically be higher because then if you go further north, the elevation drops, you have the park, and these two new fourplexes would actually be on the same level as the park, essentially. So they're not necessarily, they're not going up the mountainside.
Okay, and so where do we find the Bonneville Trail up there?
So yeah, I believe, yeah, that white line is the Bonneville Trail. I mean, it kind of gets messy with all the, four-wheeling and stuff that's gone.
Up there. Okay.
And there's actually a little trail that goes from the Alpine Brook Park up to the Bonneville.
Okay,
Trail.
thank you.
You can kind of see it there.
Another question?
Hey, just while we're on the topic of trail preservation, I live in Kenyon Meadows in this building here, the first one. So building up behind us, maybe on the record for Aaron on safety of, I don't know if there's much like risk for debris flow there or what goes on there, and it's just heartbreaking to see the views lost there as well from those buildings that do have the beautiful access to that. But trail preservation and safety implications prior to building, as we're on the hot topic of.
Absolutely. So something again, I can't speak to the Buckley draw. I mean, I've seen it flame and flow before this last time. But developers are required, it's called SWIP, stormwater prevention. And you have to put up silt fences and that type of thing. One thing that we would be committed to do is, as you know, that hillside is already vegetated. And so our intent would be to not disturb it. And then also the city requires stormwater. So silt fences would go up and stuff before construction begins. Oh, absolutely. Yep.
Just a couple follow-up questions. How close would the development be to the Canyon Meadow buildings right behind it? And can anyone maybe in the city speak to why, after all these other units were, approved for zoning for, these lower density units, why that one wasn't, why it was left as single family units? I mean, single individual homes.
Yeah, so I can actually answer why this parcel wasn't developed when Alpine Brook was. Some of you have probably been around enough to know that it was a thorn gravel pit. I mean, there was tires, concrete. I mean, we actually had to blast to get concrete out. I mean, it was a mess. And so this piece of property was acquired by my dad. He felt like it needed to be cleaned up. And I couldn't tell you the timeline, honestly. I was just out of college then, but
anyhow, so it was acquired, but not developed, just because we were working on other stuff. And so that's why. Oh, so how close? I mean, it would be a guess. I haven't, I mean, you mean like a trail connection or something?
So just creating community between those spaces instead of having like a very stark alley that goes uphill and having no access, like maybe still connecting.
Yeah, connecting a trail from Canyon Meadow up into the
Yeah,
because I'm
potentially,
assuming
because
that's
like
probably,
how close it is, like you're still buffering with beautiful green space.
Yeah.
In a way.
I mean, yeah, there obviously would be landscaping. As far as connecting communities, that would really be something that Alpine Brook would have to sign off, because I don't want to speak for them.
One more question for want of time.
So just real quick on that access, right now on the south end of Alpine Brook, there is already a public trail access that goes up to the Bonneville Shoreline Trail. You can't see it on this map, but it's further south. There's already a public trail access. You can see, oh, yep, right down there. Yep, right where we are, right there. Yep, right there. There's already a public trail access that exists to get up there. And there's also one on the north, but that's actually going through the Alpine Brooks private property. And so it's something that was explored previously about the possibility of expanding that into a public trail access by the developer above this community. Steve Turley that owned it was going to develop that property up there. At that time, the community being Alpine Brook was not open to the concept of allowing public access to go through their park. And so that's, at this point, I can't say, I can't commit for Alpine Brook or Canyon Meadow authorizing any additional accesses through their private property. However, just keep in mind, there is already access on that south end of the community.
Matt, do you have any more 30-second bits?
No, I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for coming. Just as a reminder, developers are no longer required to come to these meetings, so we're very, very grateful when they do. Rachel or Malia, if people want to know more about this development, where do they go?
They can go, probably the easiest way to keep track is to go to your neighborhood District 2 webpage. It's on the Provo City website. Let me share this with Zoom. And if you just scroll down, there's a section called Public Hearing Alerts. It's separated by neighborhood. So on this one here, it's talking about this item, Alpine Brook community, and it'll have the planner's name, Dustin Wright, and his phone number. And this will also is where I'm going to list where the public hearings are. So you see right now it has this District 2 meeting. As soon as the Planning Commission and City Council are scheduled, I will add those. So that's kind of an easy way. Or if you have an agenda, it has Dustin Wright's phone number and email on it. And that's who you can answer.
Thank you. And that information applies to both what we've just heard and the next issue, which is a preliminary presentation from Ryan Christofferson of Clyde Capital Group about a mixed use proposal on the border of Provo and Springville. So if you're here, we'll be pleased to hear from you.
Okay. And as he comes up, this one is still in the idea phase. No application has been submitted to the city yet. So this is very preliminary. So this is a great opportunity to give him all your ideas before he finalizes his plans with the city. No pressure, but.
Thank you. Yeah, my name is Ryan Christofferson. I work with Clyde Capital Group. We're a subsidiary of the Clyde companies and the land development arm of Clyde's. This first, and as Rachel said, this is really preliminary. So I'd love to get kind of give you our goals and desires of this property and then get feedback from it. This first slide is just the proximity of this development. It's approximately 40 acres on the southeast corner of Provo. It actually goes into Springville side as well. So half of our development is in Springville, half of it is in Provo, working with both cities on it. You can go to the next one. This is an overall site plan that we have so far. You can see about midway through the commercial side, we've got a dash line that separates Provo from Springville, but I wanted to just give you kind of an overall, this is what we're trying to accomplish in this area. We would like a retail core with some amenities such as an ice rink and like an event lawn space, something that can just bring the community to this area with some retail. And then you can see the red dash. That's more of like kind of connecting the community with the retail space and trying to have it all be bring them more integrated. Goal is to have an active connected community destination. We want to bring local food offerings and have diverse options in the retail space. We want to build housing options for the missing middle in this area and have some additional commercial options. If you can go to the next one. Zooming in on the Provo side, we have proposed 123 mid-density residentials, and that's kind of more tucked up in that northeast corner. Surrounding that, we have 174 townhomes, and those are for sale products. We do not plan to rent. Same with the mid-density residential. And then we do have commercial in on the south end of the development. It's about 16,000 square feet. Currently it's zoned for industrial, and we would be seeking for a mixed use design to accomplish this. And I think the next slide just shows more of like a rendering of what it looked like from the aerial. And then the following slide is a just kind of a breakout of what the townhomes would look like versus the mid-density, and then the food and beverage / retail. That's our concept, and happy to get feedback or answer any questions. Condominiums. What does mid-density means? It's condominiums.
So on your slide pictures, there's no indication of what is existing currently and what is planned. I didn't see any indicating markers of northeast, southwest, or any existing roads to orient us as to where exactly this is being placed.
Yeah, sorry, it's along State Street and then Main Street.
So is that west of State Street?
Correct. And then we've got Mountain Vista and Sierra Vista, or there's the 1400, which is the exit to go through Springville.
Can you show us like where the McDonald's is on that map for
where it says
the landmark?
Where it says primary wins, that's the McDonald's.
Okay.
And then Joe Bandito's is across the street.
So just two questions. One, did you say, just to clarify, that the mid-density were to be for sale condos? Is that the
Yes.
plan? Okay. And then the other question I have, what do you have in mind for the type of retail in that development? And then I guess I had a third question. Could you point out where you expected the ice rink to go?
Yeah, you bet. Where it says community commons, that's where the ice rink would be. Retail, it's more food and beverage. We want to be heavily food and beverage. So I don't think there'd be a lot of retail in this.
Now, Joe Bandito's hasn't sold yet, have they?
No.
Okay,
No.
I work there and I get told every day that we've sold to Clyde. So,
No.
okay.
I mean, we're talking with Jesus, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So South Provo is starving for retail. And I see that you put all of your retail on Springville side. Was there benefits to that, or what was your reasoning behind putting that in Springville? Because when you search it on Google, it's not going to come up in South Provo. You know what I mean? It's going to come up in North Springville.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's really what the market is demanding, bringing them on the busy street of the intersection of 1400 and State Street, which is that corner. So we are working with both cities and having them do an interlocal agreement because we understand that is the concern is why does Provo get all the residential while Springville gets all the retail? So that's something that we've introduced to both cities and they're working through with the economic developer and the city manager of Springville. They're again very like conceptual.
Yes, is it a peaks competition with recreation for what you're looking for, right? Like I know hockey is a big thing
Peaks
that's
competition.
coming.
No, we're just trying to have an amenity that brings people to the food and beverage and retail space, a place where you can have gathering, where you can have events. That's why we have the lawn event just north of it. So, March Madness or something like give back to the community where it's like, hey, we want to bring people together.
Question.
Yeah.
Is that a firm commitment for Chick-fil-A?
Oh, man. We would love to get them.
Final questions. I just wanted to reiterate, I know this came up, but I had a couple of email questions along those same lines, just high hopes for sales tax revenue to be sent Provo's way with this development. So just wanted to underscore a couple of other people have mentioned that in their reviews. We have time for one final question, but
I'm trying to understand the benefit to Provo based on her question. All of the people who live there are going to be going to the retail space in Springville. And so there won't be any sales tax as far as I can tell that's coming into Provo. And if you have an ice rink, that's stealing revenue away from the Seven Peaks ice rink that does provide sales tax benefit to Provo. And so I'm trying to figure out what benefit there is for Provo here other than some people who get to buy condominiums who are closer to Springville's retail places than they are to the retail places here in Provo.
Gotcha.
Oh, I just have a question on Zoom. So, yeah.
Yeah. There again, that's what we understand. I mean, you guys will have the income or taxes from property, but understanding that that's an agreement that we are asking in. And like I said, that's already been in negotiating between Springville and Provo to do an interlocal agreement because this development as a whole is better than separating itself out. We want to bring it together. So we're asking both cities to work with each other on specifically tax sharing.
for our benefit, could you give a 2-sentence definition of what an interlocal agreement is or could be?
An agreement between two cities.
Presumably involving sales tax.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sharing, sales taxes from this development. Like I said, they're currently working on it. With it being an agreement between both cities, the developer has stepped aside, and so it's between the cities to figure that out.
Okay, this is for developer and maybe city staff as well. South Provo keeps putting plans for more homes, but there's no grocery store anywhere near us. Is there any plans for this? And it doesn't seem like this development has space for a grocery store.
I didn't catch the last part of it.
And it doesn't seem like this development has space for a grocery store.
We are looking at like a neighborhood grocery store. Trying to work through that.
A quick follow-up question is how likely is it for there to be an interlocal agreement? And I guess my question is the best predictor of future behavior is past behavior. So I'm wondering if you can point to any other interlocal agreements where Provo and Springville have agreed to switch or to share tax revenue.
I'm going to pass it to the staff on that one.
I can tell you it's a priority for Provo to be able to recommend approval. This has to go through a rezone and a general plan amendment. So those are legislative decisions. To be able to get staff support on those, the interlocal sales tax sharing is a key to that. I think this is a first of its kind proposal. So there isn't a precedent for it. But Cody Hill in our economic development is working closely with Springville city manager to try to work out that agreement. So if it doesn't go through, I think that impacts the staff support for this moving forward. So hopefully that helps answer the question.
Sure.
Okay, there we go. I realize this may not be the most ideal, but I wonder if a developer in goodwill would try to come up with a win-win. What if instead of stacking the retail with the condominiums, you ran them parallel? Because then from Main Street and from the 1400 South, you could access the food and then the condos would still be there. And then both cities get half and half naturally. Would you consider something like that?
Condos are on the northeast side. The red is the retail.
But it's more safe instead of stacking them, having them parallel, because then you have two different road access to your food. So it still works great for you guys, and both cities benefit from both types of tax revenue.
Gotcha. We will take it into consideration.
I'll follow up, thanks.
Okay.
Okay, final question.
So on the map, there's a legend that says Clyde headquarters. Is that just a sales office or what?
Clyde's broken ground on their new headquarters there.
So that's like a sales office for that development or?
No, for Clyde companies themselves.
And then the other question I had is how much are you going to make? How much is Clyde going to make on all this development and selling and everything?
Give a lot of giving back to the community on this one.
You have a number?
Thank you.
Yeah. Not off the top of my head.
Thank you. Thank you very much for coming. Thank you all for your participation. Again, to continue to learn about this topic and have access to the city and developer questions, you can go to the website and track this and talk to the development staff who are assisting in seeing this application when it comes. So thank you again for coming, and we hope to see you again as this project moves forward. We have 12 minutes left on our meeting and a couple of issues to speak through. This is the exciting artsy part of our trip where Catherine Hall is going to report on some work that she and the board have been doing to propose some murals. As many of you know, the city has a mural project that has largely been centered around Central Provo, and this is a proposal to bring some of those murals to East Provo. So please, Catherine.
I'm assuming this is on. So we are looking at, I know this community loves Slate Canyon, right? We all love Slate Canyon. So if you've been up there, you might have seen some graffiti on the culverts. Currently they're painted over in gray, which thank you to the city, because we know with graffiti, one of the best ways to prohibit more graffiti is how quickly it gets covered up, right? The longer it stays, the more likely people are to go up and do more graffiti. So another way that we can prevent graffiti, and this is shown by research, is by doing murals. Murals have a tendency to make it so people don't want to do graffiti in that area. So we are looking at writing a couple grants, as well as using possibly some of our neighborhood District 2 funds to do, do a mural on the culvert. I've already talked to the city about applying for the rat tax art grant. And so I'm working on writing that one right now. That doesn't get approved till next year. Like the application time is early next year, and then we'll have to wait for approval. But we have some other precedents for projects that have been done. But this would be the first of its kind in East Provo and specifically in our neighborhoods. So I have contacted Parks and Rec, was really excited about the project. Utah County Art Board is willing to help us get information out to artists for designing the mural. We would be kind of a contest where the city would help pick the design that goes up there, as well as Provo Park, the city offices here. I don't know if it'll be the city council or the mayor's office, but they will help, as well as District 2 Board and Provo Parks, to select a winning mural that will go up. And then yeah, so hopefully next spring we'll be unveiling the design and get that in next summer when the weather warms up.
I think I'm the most annoying graffiti reporter in the city. And I've noticed that a lot of the graffiti that I've been reporting lately has been 2 weeks plus before it gets removed. So one in particular is on a mural at the park, Mazer Park, across from the railroad tracks by the basketball court there. And it's been over 2 weeks since I reported it. And I know that because it's a mural, it takes longer to paint over it because you ruin the mural. So considering how, what's the word, persistent these tags have been in these areas that you've highlighted here, how do we know that I guess this is a two-part question. First, I'm not 100% sure that it's going to work in this scenario because they're so hidden from public view. Some of those culverts are down where an unhoused population is using them, and you don't see them unless you're walking on the sidewalk. So drivers by don't see a lot of the graffiti that's there. So I feel like because it's hidden from view, that the statistics might not be as applicable in this situation. And then the second part is it seems like a lot of the tags we've been seeing lately are more gang related and less just hoodlums out with some spray paint. And so I wonder if it applies, if it's a gang, like the one on the cemetery that they just removed a couple days ago was like marking South Provo and as a name. It wasn't like weird art, it wasn't weird lettering, your typical graffiti that you see. So I feel like it's more like tagging our neighborhood in less artistic ways and more maybe dangerous ways. So how has your research and the work that you've done, the people that you've talked to, made you feel like painting these slightly hidden areas is going to prevent people from just destroying them? That was a lot.
Go ahead, Rachel.
So it was the city who actually approached District 2 about doing the murals. I do know that the less complicated the design, the easier it is to clean up the graffiti. If it's really detailed, it takes a lot. And they've even covered up some murals because they've been too detailed for them to fix it. But if we keep that in mind with the design, usually, like it says, if it's a bold, colorful design, the tagging is less noticeable. But for some reason, they just like a nice clean wall to tag on rather than something painted. And that's what this city has told us.
I just wanted to follow up. We did do one with a neighborhood grant before the district program started, and it's in between State Street and I can't remember the street. It's like 900, between 900 and 1000 South. They're on the backside of a business there. And as a neighborhood group, we did paint that, and it did reduce the graffiti that we had, but they did also ruin the mural a couple times, and we had to go back and repaint it. So that's why I'm more worried about the less visible spots and the nefarious nature of the tags.
And I understand that. And I'm glad that Rachel put this slide up, because broken window is something that my neighbors hear me talk about all the time. Broken window is if you have a home that is empty or derelict in your neighborhood, it's more likely you're going to get another one, right? Same thing with graffiti. If we cover it up and we're persistent, and by decorating these, I do think the graffiti will be reduced, because you're not going to have 4 different culverts with graffiti. You're going to have 4 with murals. Sorry.
What efforts are being made outside of this to deter graffiti? And is that, I'm like cleaning up the canyon, that kind of a thing?
So we do clean up the canyon every spring. We do Slate Canyon Days. You've probably heard about it in this meeting. We are planning one next year we have to coordinate that with Provo Parks, and that's not quite set yet. So every spring there is Slate Canyon Days where we go through, remove trash, invasive weeds, things like that. Trail repair. We've even worked on the wood fence before. So it is a community effort to keep Slate Canyon, the beautiful playground basically for our backyards. Did that answer your question? Kind of, sort of. Well, tell me what you're at, like.
Well, maybe not clean up is the right term, but the individuals that are doing this graffiti, how are we preventing them from access? Or are there any other ways?
Yeah, I mean, there are laws about spray cans, purchasing spray cans, right? You have to be, I think it's 18. The juvenile detention or juveniles who are caught doing graffiti are generally used to help clean up graffiti. Sometimes that's why it takes so long, because by the time you get the police out to take the photos, they do the report, they coordinate with the juvenile justice system to get those individuals out there to clean it up. So that is one reason it takes a long time sometimes to remove graffiti, is because they're using juvenile individuals to help remove it. Those who create graffiti help remove it. So, I mean, obviously without locking it down, there's no way to prevent it from ever happening again.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, we're cutting into public comment time, so there are 2 more questions on this issue. People with the mics already, and then we'll just move straight into public comment and question, if that's okay. And I think we'll go a little 5 minutes over to make sure that we have that full time. Thank you.
So I think my question part has been mostly answered. It's more crime related. So maybe just a comment I have is I love art. I love Slate Canyon. I'm all for more art, but I've personally seen tags on parking signs, on trees, on like rocks. And so they might not be tagging these murals, but they're just, if it's crime related, I feel like they're just going to be tagging like the outhouse, you know, so that's my concern.
Have you ever heard the concept like locks only keep honest people out? Right? Like if you're talking about your car, like somebody will break the window. We can do what we can do, but if somebody's completely intent on tagging something, they'll find something to tag. However, we will make sure that these murals integrate really as well as possible with the surrounding scenery. And if you see something like the individual in the back, report it on the website. Maybe Rachel can bring that up. The sooner you report it, the sooner it can get removed, right? So
I would say use the app. Get the Provo City app, click on report an issue. You can hit graffiti. It knows exactly where you're at. You can take a photo. It gets sent right to customer service. The app is the best way to do it.
Thank you, Rachel.
Over the summer, I went to a presentation by artist Rafael Lopez, who helps communities paint murals. Would you be open to having us help paint rather than hire a specific artist so that we contribute to the mural as a community, and like our kids are helping paint it?
So one way to cut down on costs is, when we were planning to do this, was to have volunteers paint the base layers. So the artist comes in, that's when the design is picked. They say, you can paint this area, this color, this area, that color, and then they come in and do the fine tuning, is how we're looking at doing it. So we will need volunteers and families that want to come out and help, but the artist will do the final details.
Thank you. Just to follow up and remind you that this isn't like the very much an ideation phase, and I'm just so happy that so many people are here to be excited about art and concerned about graffiti. Please keep in conversation with us. You can find the board's email, contact information on our website. I think at this point, Catherine, if I might, the more people who are willing to participate and talk about this, the better, so that we can form a committee to kind of guide this or to investigate this issue. We will take 5 minutes over for public comment. At this point, again, this is just a general rules. You get 2 minutes for public comment, and all of these things are recorded in our minutes and passed on to city officials. Yeah, you're welcome to use this mic if you want to, or if you raise your hand, we're happy to bring one.
I'll just make it quick then. My wife grew up on the East Coast, and in New York City, there are certain places where you will find beautiful graffiti. And my understanding is the artists there who put up these huge murals of graffiti get pretty upset when somebody comes and tags their tag. So I'm wondering if at any of these places you could get some of the juveniles who need to clean it up and make them the ones responsible for turning it into some sort of thing so that they can put the word out that they're going to be unhappy if any of their compatriots go and paint over the art that they did. So just an idea to consider.
I have one. Okay, I have a comment from John Bunderson. We're looking for the person who was at our last neighborhood District 2 meeting that was asking about donating money for shade sales at Rock Canyon Park. Is this person here by any chance? Shade sales, the big shade areas. But okay, let me see. I couldn't tell who was speaking in the video, so I was hoping they were here. But he has information for that person. But I'll try to see. Mitzi might know. The Oak Hills people might know.
I actually think it was the person that did her presentation on her an ADU request.
Oh, okay. Awesome. Thank you.
I try not to make comments in these meetings, but just want to second this gentleman's last comment about graffiti. And I think we need to incorporate, maybe work with the local juvenile detention and find who these little guys are and have them get involved, right? And then Lisa said it too. I would prefer to allocate money towards other places where graffiti is, rather than, to me, when I look at culverts, that's like an attractive nuisance to be graffitied over and over and over again. And yeah, it is a little bit more out of the way. That's all.
Final call. All right, here we are.
First of all, I just want to say thanks to everyone who supports our community and is out here active, trying to help things to be better. In answer to the graffiti problem, I mean, we do our best to try and report it to get it taken care of, but we'd also like to help out with the problem. So if you just gave us some paint, we could actually fix it faster than we could report it. And we'd be happy to do that.
So where I live, we have a little neighborhood park in the corner of our street. And several years ago, my little kiddos, who are now grown, went out, came back from the park, and told me that there was some very sexually explicit graffiti. So we went through that process of calling the police, waiting for the police to come take their photos, and it did take a while. However, and we did tell the police, like, we don't want to wait for the whole process. And so we did talk to them, and we bought the paint, we allowed them to come take the photos, and then we painted it. The moment they were walking off the park grass, we were painting, because that park is so utilized by young children on our street that we just didn't want to wait another 2 weeks for that. So sometimes you can talk to them about that, but it is really good when you guys are talking about involving juvenile taggers or graffiti artists, whatever you want to, it is good to have them go out and clean it up as well. Provo Parks did a great job. Our little park recently, I don't know if you knew this, but the parks really got hit by graffiti this spring, as well as some fires. So there's been a lot of vandalism in our parks lately. And so the more we're all aware to look out for things and can report it, that's great. But we did get hit again, this little neighborhood park. And the individual who maintains our park, and I blanked on his name, I'm sorry, but I should put him up for, Employee of the Month, because he worked the entire morning to get that graffiti off because he knew the kids were coming, because it was in the spring, school was out kind of thing. And they did a fantastic job. Now we did it differently. We reported it to the park and he saw it and he cleaned it that same day, as much as he could. So you just have to report it and trust the process, or work with the police on an alternate like we did, which was we bought the paint, we went in and painted it. And we didn't just paint the graffiti, we repainted all the areas, that needed painted. So you can get creative if they're willing to let you, is all I was gonna say.
Just to close out the meeting, thank you again for everyone for being here. I know there are other places that you could spend your Wednesday evenings, but we sure are happy that you are here. Your next opportunity to participate in a neighborhood District 2 meeting is February 4th at 6 p.m. and we'll be back in our normal place in the community hall room and again on Zoom. Again, we want to thank all of our city officials, elected administrative officials for coming. We know there's other places you might want to be tonight too, and we're sure glad you're here. And again, just a thank you to every single one of you who makes Provo the place that it is to live. We'll go ahead and officially adjourn the meeting. Please download the Provo app. It's so great. And be in contact with us with any ideas and agenda items for the future. Thank you.